Verse number 59. Without knowledge I do not exist. Without me there is no knowledge. Light alone is. Thus both knowledge and knower, when contemplated, are of one substance. There can be no doubt. Commentary. When we examine the content of the mind, we can see three main functional aspects. One is in the form of physical sensations, being cognized. Sensations are either appreciated as pleasure-giving or painful. We cannot draw a line between a sensation as such and our feeling about it. When I speak and then pause, what passes through your mind during that short interval is reasoning. You think about what you just heard. It is not a sensation, it's not a feeling that is aroused in you, but a chain of thought. Reasoning is the second functional aspect. A third aspect is volition. I am now taking the resolve to talk to you. I can also resolve not to talk. But if I want to talk, I have to decide to do it, and then make an effort to come across to you by looking for the appropriate words and articulating them. For that, there has to be a steady preparedness on my side, whereby I allow a compulsion to act upon myself. When I look for that compulsion, I find it is also myself. So I am compelling me to talk. The I who is compelling and the me who is compelled. How can we distinguish them? Both are subjective. Both are identified with the core of my own consciousness. Yet they are one as well as two. Sometimes when I compel myself, I groan under the weight of my own compulsion. Why should I do something which is not easy flowing? Why do I have to make it so difficult? These three aspects, feeling, thinking, and willing, all have one center, the I. I feel, I think, I will. The quality of I as a feeling consciousness, as a reasoning awareness, and as a willing agent creates around each a whole universe of its own. The entire world of aesthetics has for its nucleus the feeling aspect. The entire world of logic has for its center the reasoning aspect, and all of the moral life or ethics has for its center the willing aspect. So there is a moral aspect, a logical aspect, and a psychological aspect involved in the I. You cannot have a feeling aspect without associating it with a body. The sensations come through your senses. For that you need a central nervous system, a body and its sense organs. There also needs to be an external world where the stimulations come from, the world of forms. If another person is eating delicious food or drinking something refreshing, no matter how dear that person is to you, it does not bring the taste or savor to your mouth. For that you have to put it in your own mouth. There is a distinction, a separateness between one body and another. Still, that world of sensation that is so intimate to you is lying between a point of consciousness in you and a whole field which is outside your awareness. It is either by your choice or by an external compulsion that the consciousness within you relates itself to an entity which is external to it. Philosophers like Kant want to make a clear distinction between a knowledge that is derived through psychological means and a knowledge that forms within you on the ground of pure logic or mathematics. A mathematical understanding is not a sensory one. It is a logical necessity which is felt within one's consciousness. Now, where in these two worlds, the sensory and the intellectual, do we see the willing element? Only in a very limited role. So actually, you have within you the agents of three functions: an enjoyer, a knower, and a doer. The enjoyer interfaces the world of sensation and feeling. The knower is the logician who calculates, differentiates, classifies, and categorizes. And the volitional function, or the willing element in you, is the actor. So when you first say I, it looks very simple, but it is not as simple as it seems. The simplicity is there because I enjoy, I know, and I will all spring from the same source. In this verse, we are asked to tie all the loose ends up in one single knot. The knower and the known are to be pieced together on the grounds that without the knower there is no knowledge, and without knowledge there is no knower. These are not two interlaced things. They are one and the same. And what is the nature of that oneness? Narayana Guru says it is a pure light. What is the advantage of knowing it as a pure light? The advantage is the very meaning of life. When you feel there are many things that upset you, fill you with agony, struggle, pain, and misery, your reason can become so confounded, so muddled and confused, that everything appears to be absolute darkness. The combined effect of a wrong stimulus coming into you and an unclear mind misinterpreting the meaning of what is coming in creates an apparent threat. The volitional agency, the person in you who has to act, has to face the consequence. You turn upon yourself, your sensory and thinking aspects combine forces and turn against your volitional aspect. You cannot act unless you have stamina, which feeds you a continuous supply of energy. This energy is experienced as your interest. It is either a pleasure-giving interest or an interest in the preservation of your identity. If there is a threat and you have to fight to preserve yourself, then the very meaning of your life, the need for self-preservation, supplies you with the quanta of energy which you require to fight. The source of sensation and feeling is also the source of all the energy. Previously I mentioned the 9 kinds of moods: erotics, compassion, grief, humor, hatred, revulsion, fear, heroics, and peace. They are all full of energy. When a person is roused by hatred, seemingly out of nowhere comes the stamina and energy to be aggressive and to fight. When fear comes, it paralyzes, freezes. Like that, all the moods are games of energy from the side of feeling. In order to act, you also need a direction to act in, a justification for your action, a strategy or plan of action, and a layout of the field before you. You need a visualization of the whole thing as a mental image, a mental model of how you are going to proceed. For this, your reasoning is your main tool. Although the knower, the doer, and the enjoyer have equal status as parts of your personal self, as we have seen, there can be strife between them. If there is no cooperation between your reasoning and your feeling, you cannot act. Any of these aspects can go against you. Your reason and your sensations can oppose you or oppose each other. Your volitional aspect can let down your reason or your feelings. Even though the feeling aspect might demand immediate action to gratify a certain desire, which is purely pleasure-giving, and the reasoning aspect is giving you all possible justifications for that gratification, the volitional element in you can still decide to let it go. Thus, the possibilities of the mind decide the whole meaning of life. If you do not have a unifying factor, you will be caught in one or another of the small loopholes of sensation, reason, or will. Some area in the body, some area in the mind, something in what you see or what you are, all can be sources of misery and problems. It is painful to see another person be miserable, and it is painful to be miserable yourself. The problematic area is lessened when you know that the misery that you see in yourself and in another person both originate from your own consciousness. This removes the first problem, the duality of the source of misery. Then you only have to deal with the common source. In this verse, all the sources of trouble, which were given in the last 6 or 7 verses, are brought under 2 common headings, the knowing mind and what is known. Shankara calls this the drik and the drishya, the eye that sees and what is seen. Kant makes a division of pure and practical reason, while Descartes divides the body and the mind. After making such divisions, all these philosophers have had to find some methodology by which the duality could be bridged. Shankara's methodology first takes the physical eye, seeing the world outside. If my eye is defective, I will misinterpret the world accordingly. For instance, if I have jaundice, the things I see will all be tinted yellow. Is it true that they are really yellow? No, it's the jaundice that makes them look that way. That means it is not the physical filament of my eye that operates as my eye. It is too unreliable. There must be another eye behind this physical eye that is really doing the seeing. This is why I can see in my dreams, even without the use of the physical eyes at all. I am sound asleep, but in the dream there are so many colors, forms, and meanings. How do I see them? With the eye behind the eye. Is it physical also? Yes. I have to be alive to dream. That means there is a bodily function connected with it. When I am seeing in the dream world, who is the seer and what is actually the seen? All the sensory stimuli connected with this organ called the eye have properties such as shape, form, and color, and these are perceived in the dream. So it is not the thing themselves, but the impressions of things, the ideas of qualities that are seen in the dream. In deep sleep, I do not see anything, and yet I am still there. I recognize afterwards that I had a deep sleep. So what is the nature of that I? It is not even my mind, but rather that which animates my mind. I can go from the physical world of experience to a dream experience to a deep sleep experience. If I go still further, I won't be able to make any distinction at all between the subject and object. The world of the seer and the world of the seen come together until both are cancelled out and effaced. One comes to a neutral area of unity. Once we know that there is an aspect of knowledge which effaces or cancels out the physical world, the heaviness of phenomenality is not felt anymore. From this you gain a new freedom. The freedom is to relate yourself to the phenomenal world, with all the laws which operate in it, and yet to keep within a calm repose by which you can sit on your own seat of absolute certitude as a witness. For the purpose of deliberation, for the purpose of carrying out the transactions of the world, you can meet the contingency by becoming alive to the situation. It is not that you fade out as pure consciousness. You are in full alignment with that pure consciousness, but the retention of your ego enables you to meet the requirements of the world of transaction. This means you can laugh without moving away from the center of total tranquility, and you can cry your tears without the soul being affected by them. There can be a real difference between two people who show the same behavioral pattern to our external eyes. One person acts out of a transactional model, consciously knowing the rules and what is required by the situation. For the other, it is not a model. It is the original self transforming into the variegations to which it is subjected. Grief then means total grief. Humor means total humor. Confusion means total confusion. There is no inner poise, no place to stand, no inner stability. It is to be caught in the storm and to be mercilessly tossed around by it. In the first one, on the other hand, you sit firm on your own seat and live the storm as only a passing fancy. You can step back into your clarity at any moment. That makes all the difference. In this verse we are told there is only one pure light, and yet that pure light provides for us the two spheres of the knower and the known. If we look at the previous 5 or 6 verses, we can see that each whole sphere is surrounded by what is called an ocean of phenomenality, in which many traits lie hidden. Those traits of Maya can bring an unlimited number of variegated worlds of differing name, form, and meaning. These verses cannot be studied in isolation. We should retrospectively see the implication of all that has been built up in this section of the work. There is inevitable misery there. Detachment from that misery is only possible through the unification of our knowledge. This is done contemplatively by practicing withdrawal. Of course, there can be a pathological withdrawal as well as a therapeutic withdrawal. A pathological withdrawal happens when you are afraid. You see a threat, you exaggerate the threat, you exaggerate the fear that is initiated in you, and so you want to run away from the situation and get back into the womb, so to speak. You become paranoid. This is a pathological reaction, taking the form of a withdrawal. When it expands to all its seriousness, it benumbs your faculties. Doors that are once closed, you are unable to open again. Thus you become self-imprisoned, trapped in your own emotional state, and locked in your own confused reasoning. The volitional element in you is so crippled that it has no initiative with which to break out. The other withdrawal is that of the saint. It assumes the position of the witness rather than the actor. Here the agent of consciousness does not run away from any situation, but instead decides to go into an active form of silence. It is a silence, not born of fear, but of fearlessness. You are not escaping from someone, but at the same time, you are not holding yourself obligated to anyone either. Then you should go one step further. On one side is the silence to which you go as a pathological trait. On the other side is the therapeutic silence. Through a dialectical synthesis of these two aspects, you can come to your own natural self, pure consciousness. Then you are the value meaning of your own self. In this way, the world show is all wound up, and you remain steadfast in your own beingness. The second half of Atmopadesh Satakam is not meant to satisfy mere intellectual curiosity. It is a very difficult yet very profitable ascent. You may not see much difference between one verse and the next. To some people it might even be boring, but in each verse is a whole ocean of wisdom. This morning I was looking at all the references that had to go into today's verse. The entire theme worked out by Kant regarding pure and practical reason, Fichte's ideas of the self and the non-self, Shankara's theories of the Drik and the Drishya, the Bhagavad Gita's treatment of Jnana and Vijnana, the mind and matter of Descartes, Spinoza's naturing self, nature that is naturing, and that is natured, and Leibniz's blind, dull monad, and the monadum monadus. There is a vast world to be unearthed that is lying dormant in just this one verse. If you do not see all this related material, it is just a simple statement that without the knower there is no knowledge, and without knowledge there is no knower. What is there to worry about? There is nothing to worry about. But there are so many things worrying you. This is a means by which you can get over all your worries. As I see it, its value is very great. Shankara finally comes to the conclusion, Yatha drishti tatha srishti. How your eyes are, so the world is. If you are pure, you see purity everywhere. If you are voluptuous, you see voluptuousness everywhere. If you are an egotist, you see the egotism of other people around you. If you are mad, you see madness in all. If you are peaceful, you see the occasion to have peace everywhere. If you are peaceful, you see the occasion to have peace everywhere. If you are harmonized, the world is harmonized with you. The advantage of this study is simply this, self-correction. When you correct yourself, the world is also corrected for you. That correction is possible only through seeing this oneness, this union. Very soon we will be told that the mere saying of it won't bring it. As of the next verse, we will have been at this for 60 days. For 60 days we have been continuously ruminating on the same subject. Did we go far? Somebody wrote a reaction to this class and brought it to me, although I didn't ask anyone to write a reaction paper saying that it has only stimulated the ego in people. I do not see how, but this is a good indication to show that even the best of effort and the best of intentions won't bring results by themselves, since by just going over the verses or repeating them, we can still project our ego on anyone and think that they have a preoccupation with ego. In spite of all this dirt that is coming up and madness that is aroused, we still have to find our way, gradually and steadily, to our own inner core, where we can finally discover and discern for ourselves the fountain source of all peace and happiness. Nothing should stop us. There are two key words in this verse. One is prakasha matram, that is light alone. The other is oru purulam. Substantially, it is of one essential meaning. The essential meaning of the knower and the essential meaning of the known are the same. But how do we live it? In a Sermon on the Mount, Jesus said, if you say raka to your brother and then go to the altar, you should first leave your gifts at the place of sacrifice and go to your brother and reconcile with him. Then come and do your sacrifice. He put it in a very simple, anecdotal way. He did not expound the philosophy of it. It does not matter whether you know the philosophy or not, as long as you know what to do. I do not know what raka is. Maybe it means rascal. My only prayer is, God, never make me call my brother a rascal. Our self-righteousness can take us to such putrefied state, full of pus and stinking horribly, that the whole soul becomes cancerous. Everywhere all you are smelling is your own stench. To my mind, three examples stand in one line. The first is what I have just related of the teaching of Jesus. If you have already offended your brother, first reconcile with him before you go to God. The second is in Rousseau's Confessions. He says, I agree I was a bad man. You have many things to accuse me of, but my brother, come with me. Let us stand before our God, who has the all-seeing eye. Before him, if you can, accuse me. That God who sees my action and your action alike. If you can conceal your actions and only hold out my actions before him, you are welcome to accuse me. He leaves it there. Finally, Andre Bergson, in his Two Sources of Morality and Religion, says, when you point your finger at another and denounce him, you know in your heart of hearts that you are no better. When I first came to my Guru, I had plenty of trouble with people, with my fellow disciples. Guru called me and said, I shall give you a secret. Allow the other to be victorious. If somebody fights you, let you be the vanquished and not the victor. I found there is nothing more helpful than this, to be vanquished and not to become victorious. Just say, you have the upper hand, let all the glory be yours. I shall just lie in the dust. It is very difficult, but it works. You don't make any claim. You don't indulge in any feelings of martyrdom. You just give up. The basic truth rests on this. There is only one and not a second. If there is someone to be punished, it is only you. If there is someone to be corrected, it is also just you. You means me. In my personal life, I correct the other by correcting myself. I punish the other by punishing myself. I silence the other by going into silence myself. I bring peace to the other by making myself peaceful. I bring happiness to the other by making myself happy. It is a very intimate experience to work with oneself, and it is the one place where you can conveniently work, where your volition, your knowledge, and your feeling are all at hand at the very source from which the idea I comes. And the free translation of verse 59 is, I do not exist without my having any knowledge of it. Without me, my knowledge cannot exist on its own. The light that shines is the same, both in the knower and in the knowledge. When contemplated, it will undoubtedly be known that both are the same.